Hello, this is Brain Break with Randy and Keitho, and I want to welcome you back. I want to tell you a story when I was in college that I think you might find of interest. When I was going to school, I went to school, did my best at school, but I also worked. I didn't have other income, though, because my dad was a professor. I was able to attend for very little per semester, but I still had to pay my living costs and feed my family. So I ended up working about full time when I went to school full time. One of the jobs I had for a couple of years was as a night auditor at a very nice hotel. If you're ever in Tucson, check out the Lodge on the Desert. It is beautiful. It has amazing grounds, a great restaurant, and the rooms, while there aren't very many, are amazing. When I was there, they had 5 rooms that had a full length swimming pool in them. I was the night auditor 3 nights a week, which meant I would go in and tackle the books, make sure that we had collected the money that we said we did, and everything balanced out. On a good night, I could do that in about 20 minutes. On a bad night, it would take me 45 minutes. Now, they didn't pay me a lot, but they saved me a lot of money by feeding me an amazing breakfast when I was there. The breakfast was so good, I could go clear until dinner the next day. Probably not the wisest way to eat, but you're only young once. When I was working there, we had famous people come and stay. For instance, CEO and chairman of the board of IBM was a guest. And we had a permanent guest, the father of our mayor. So the mayor was there regularly visiting his father. I would come in about 10 minutes to 10 at night, and I would be there until about 6 or so in the morning until someone would come and relieve me. Now, this hotel had personalized wake-up calls. There was no such thing as setting a wake-up call from the room. If you said you needed a wake-up call, I would be the one to wake up and call you. I would go around and gather all of the room service orders and turn them in to the restaurant after I'd organized them. The restaurant was amazing. They had fresh squeezed orange juice from the trees that were right there in the compound. It was amazing. I was so grateful to work there. I really enjoyed the people. I don't know who owns it anymore, but it was a great opportunity for me. Well, one night, I was balancing the books and I'd finished and was doing my homework when the whole office was just glass. And I heard a knock, knock, knock on the door. And I looked up and I just kind of startled because the man was not pleasant looking. I didn't know who he was. I knew I'd seen him before, but I didn't know where. It could have been a wanted poster for all I knew. But it turned out it was Jack Elam, the Hollywood actor. His wife came every year to attend a religious convention for whatever church it was. I don't recall, and I couldn't find it by looking it up. But I met her a time or two. She was very nice. I got to know Jack very well because when she would go to sleep and he couldn't sleep, he would come down to the office and we'd sit out in the lobby and I'd transfer a phone out there and would visit until he was ready to go to bed. Sometimes that was an hour and sometimes it was several hours. But the thing that impressed me the most about Jack Elam is he didn't want to talk about him or being famous, the famous people he'd met and worked with. He wanted to talk about me. I've noticed that with people that are famous. They want to talk about you. Tell me about you. So he got to know that I was married and that I had a wife and a daughter. This is just something I did so that we would have just a little extra money. It was probably $60 a week, but we could use every penny of that. But if you don't know much about Jack, he has a wayward eye. That happened when he was 12 years old at a Boy Scout meeting. Another boy lunged at him with a pencil in his hand. It basically messed up his eye for the rest of his life. Now, Jack was a very smart guy. He went into the Navy during World War II. I'm not sure how he got in with having only one eye, but he did. He did bookkeeping and things like that. Then he started doing the books for a couple of the studios, but it was putting a lot of strain on his good eye. And so the doctors told him he needed to do something else. The story he told me was that basically he helped get funding approved for 3 movies, but he wanted to be a bad guy in the movies. I'm not sure why he wanted to be a bad guy. But unfortunately, most of the parts he played, he was kind of a bad guy. But he was the nicest man. He had, as I understand it, 3 children whom I've never met. But his first wife died in 1961. He was a month younger than my father exactly. Unfortunately, he died quite a bit sooner than my father. I didn't stay in touch with him after I left Tucson and went to work after graduating. But it was sure nice to meet him, and I'd only see him probably 2 or 3 nights a year with my schedule and his wife's schedule. But he was from Miami, Arizona, and loved coming back to Arizona. He loved Arizona. Of course, he lived in Hollywood somewhere. And he didn't want to talk much about him, but mostly about me. And it was kind of fun because when you're young, nobody wants to talk about you. But I'm grateful that I had a chance to meet him, and I was able to let him into the office, into the lobby, and we had a nice visit every time. I don't remember a time when I didn't enjoy visiting with him. I think we were blessed in that I wasn't disturbed much during those visits. We could actually visit. I guess, and I've met people that were more famous than Jack Elam. I don't think I've met anybody who was nicer or cared as much about me, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. And I'll tell you about those at a later date. But I wanted to thank you again for listening to Brain Break with Randy and Keitho. Please feel free to tell your friends and family about us. We love your comments and your likes. Thank you so much. And again, until next time, this is Randy. Bye now.